Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. We're going to talk about the gender ratio at the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition table, the macro table. And we're going to talk about when or if we should see the return of guilt-free all-male tables. All right, let's talk about it. All right, so why are we talking about this? We're talking about this for primarily one reason. I have started belaying my son in a rock gym. So me and my son, we were invited by a friend who does rock gym climbing, rock climbing in rock gyms, right? So we're not out, climbing any mountain faces yet, but maybe we'll get there. We'll see. But my son, he's entering into the first year of high school, so he's high school age, lower end of high school age. And I'm always looking for, I always make sure I have some kind of bridge to each one of my children, something we can do together, and it's just our thing, and we can go do it, right? And so with my son right now, that is rock gym climbing. So we're going to these rock gyms, and actually he is climbing, and I just learned to belay him, right? So he could do, we just did 10 ascents on this Sunday. So we went to the rock gym. I belayed him 10 times up the wall, and it took about 2 hours, and just had a great time, really, really fun time, and really had a good time. But while we were there, the rock gym had lots of different groups in it. It had like a birthday party, the staff was belaying up all these kids that had come for a birthday party. Had some older folks who were there, and then just a smattering of couples. But I noticed this one group. So me and my son, I just pulled him up this 50-foot, wall, or belayed him up this 50-foot wall. And he had done a lot of climbing, and it was great. It went really well. And so we went over this bench, and we're just sitting down, and about 15 feet away from where we were sitting, about 10, 15 feet away, there was this group, and it was an all-ladies group. So they all looked to be between college age, right? So they were all at the lower end of the age range, they were college age. And at the higher end of the range, they were approaching 30, maybe 27, 28, right? So all young ladies, nobody over 30, all ladies. Now, let's talk about that. I'm saying they're all ladies. I definitely am, smart enough to understand that is possible it was not an all ladies group, because there might have been somebody who was doing their hair and making fashion choices, and that would present to the macro level public as female, as lady, but the reality is it was just gender expression, and the person was bi or perhaps trans, and so it's definitely possible it wasn't an all ladies group. But for the purpose of my I beg your indulgence for the purpose of my point. I think this was an all-ladies group. It's possible it wasn't, but I think it was, right? So, also, I'm going to say right now, so basically, I understand that identity expression is an incredibly complicated issue. If I'm using any of these terms wrong, or if I have any assumptions here that are incorrect, please correct me down below. Everything here is my opinion, and I'm going forward because I think this is a really interesting question, and I think we should be thinking about these things. We should be thinking about gender ratio at the Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition table. But I also know I'm not the expert on these things. So if I get anything wrong and I'm not caught up to date on the latest identity expression knowledge, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you. All right. So basically, all ladies group, right? And I look over, and they're just having the best time, right? So they're climbing too, and they're taking a break from climbing, right? And there's 6 ladies at the table, and 6 young ladies at the table, and like 2 or 3 of them are starting to determine what pairings they're going to go out, who's going to belay and who's going to climb on the next round. One of the other ladies was talking to the other half of the group. She says a joke, and the other 2 just laugh out loud at the joke, and they're just having the best time, just enjoying each other's company, their companionship, their friendship, their camaraderie. It's all there, and it's just on display, and you could tell, right? They're just having a great time. So I'm looking at this, and then I realized, wait, that's an all-ladies group, right? I was like, isn't that non-inclusive? Or and because I'm in an all-male D&D group that is not a guilt-free all-male D&D group, and I'll explain that in one moment. I was like, wait, don't they have to go get a male? Like, are you allowed to just go out in gendered groups anymore? Is that allowed? Right? Like, and the reason why is I am in an all-male D&D group right now, and it is not guilt-free. It is guilt-ridden, right? Like, so how did I end up in an all-male D&D group, and why are we here, and why is this okay, or is it okay? And let's talk about that, right? So I just started my newest campaign. We're about 2 months in. It's all male. It's 4 males, and we're all players and all DMs at the same time. Unusual game, but right now, how do we get there? Well, I didn't build that on purpose, right? So the first thing is I had come out of a 10-month game that was completely with 2 other people, right? 1 male, 1 female. So that had a 50% male-female ratio, right? Which is great. That's like, it's ideal, right? So that campaign ended not when the D&D game ended, but when my friendship with the male players ended. Our friendship ended, and the game ended as a casualty of our friendship ending, right? And so as soon as that happened, one, I didn't play for 3 months, right? So I was just like, I was shell-shocked that, this friendship had ended, and I was like, you should take a step back, just make sure that you review your, what was your participation in friendship ending, and all that kind of thing. So I just, took a step back. But after 3 months, I'm like, hey, I got to get back to the table here, right? Like, if you comment about D&D, you better not spend too long not playing D&D, right? So, and also I love D&D. The game was siren calling me back, so I'm like, yeah, I got to play again, right? So the first thing I did was I invited the female player from before. She said, hey, 4 months from now, I'm physically moving from this area. And so she declined. I also think, I'll tell you right now, I don't think for 1 second, she was in a game that was going great. My friendship with one of the people in the group ends, and the whole game ends. That was abrupt and frustrating for everybody at the table, including her, right? But she was the first. She was the first person. Actually, she was the second person invited. So I invited my friend who was male. Then my second one was. Then I invited another female player, right? And she's like, nah, it's I played D&D. It's just not my jam. I don't think I enjoy it as much as you guys. You guys got a weekly game going. The frequency a little high. So we invited 2 female players. I invited 2 female players before I invited my second male player. And then at that point, my first male player filled the other 2 slots with males, right? So that's how we ended up in a guilt-ridden all-male game. Now, why do we feel guilt, right? You're like, Scott, you can play with anybody you want. That is wrong. I'll tell you that right now. It's wrong that you can just play with whoever you want in D&D. Now, why is that wrong? Well, if you ain't been paying attention, back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, right now, Dungeons & Dragons has already told us, Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition gender ratio at the macro level is 60-40. 60% male, 40% female. The whole D&D community can clap their hands and be very proud of themselves for building a game that is very clearly attracting female players, right? Like, that's a fact. The numbers show it, right? So 60-40, that gender ratio is pretty darn good, right? Like, we're just 10% away from equality, and it's, and I'm not even sure, like, anybody's like, no, I'm not sure anybody's saying, oh, we need, exact equality. But that means that 2 out of 5 players at the table are female. That's very good. It's a lot of progress from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But the reality is, without a doubt, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there were some tables where they were like, oh, no chicks are getting invited to this, right? I witnessed them, right? I didn't have one, but I definitely witnessed them, right? And, and so, yeah. And I'm going to admit something, too. I was invited into one, and I learned 3 months in, I think, that the DM was not inviting female players. I think it ran for about 7 months, and I never ducked out. And I think that was in maybe 89, 90. I do feel bad about that, right? Because I was part of the problem then, right? And so the idea that you could just fill your table with males now and not feel a single shred of guilt about it, and that you shouldn't fix that, is ridiculous. That's not, we can't do that, right? Also, in today's society, when you talk about gender ratio, right, people are going to bring receipts, and there is some hard receipts against Dungeons and Dragons. The biggest one that stands today, right, today, is, I know this for a fact because I've paid very close attention to this. There has never been anything but a white male in the 47 years of history, right? Dungeons and Dragons is now 47 years old, and in that 47 years, there has never been a single day where the design lead was not a white male. It has been a white male for 47 years in a row. Gary Gygax, Rob Hansu, Mike Merles, and two other dudes whose work is not stand out enough as the other three that I just mentioned for me to even remember their names, right? And it's like maybe there's another one or two in there, but there has never been a design lead on Dungeons & Dragons that is not a white male. That's a problem. That is a definite problem. And that says that nobody can be filling their table with all males and just saying, yeah, we're fine. We don't care. All right, like it's not appropriate. It's just not appropriate, right? If that is a receipt, that is a hard receipt that says the design of this game has never been allowed to be in anything but a white male's hands. That has got to change, right? And until that, and okay, so all right, so let's get to the core of this video. When should we be allowed to have what those ladies had? To just bro it up, dude it up, and fill the table with our guy friends and not feel a shred of guilt about it, right? We're not there now. I'll tell you that right now. There's no way until this game has had something other than a white male as the design lead. There's no way any dudes should be like, I could have a guilt-free male table right now. No, you cannot, right? Like, you're playing a game that has never had a design lead that's anything but a white male. That is a huge problem, right? There's no way to think that happened for 47 years without some exercise of prejudice. It's ridiculous, right? And I'll tell you right now, I'm predicting, it makes it so that it is impossible for a white male to get that design lead position next. Because it would be saying, because at this point, I can guarantee you, right? If I'm aware of it, you bet Hasbro and WotC are aware of it, and there is no way they're going to be like, well, we've had a white male as the design lead for 47 years. Let's do it again. Let's double down. Let's triple down. Let's 8 tuple down. Right? That ain't going to happen. I'll tell you right now, the design lead from 5th edition is not going to be a white male next. I wish there was a place where I could lay a bet on it, because I'll tell you right now, it ain't going to happen. Right? So, yeah, very interesting, right? So, yeah, there's just no way, right? And while that stands, there's no way that, and so basically right now, if a guy is going to build a table, he's got to invite some females, right? It's just that you cannot have a 100% male gender ratio in a game that for 47 years has never allowed design lead status to go to females. It's just, it impacts our gender ratios, and we are in a point where we're absolutely going to have to be very careful. And I think anytime a male puts together a Dungeons and Dragons game, they're going to have to invite females, and we cannot have what those ladies had at that table until there is a female design lead, okay? And I would say until there's been a period where and the ratio remains at 60-40 or more, right? I think if we recede to less than a third of all players being female, that would constitute saying that there could be no guilt-free male tables anymore. But as long as we have 33% or more players, female players, because I'm not convinced that the actual natural shape of Dungeons & Dragons gender ratio will be 50-50, right? There may always be just a point where males enjoy it more. I think the biggest reason there is combat, right? Men have been in combat for millennia. Women are just starting to go into combat, and and also, I think the fact that the game is combat focused may mean there may never be a day where it's a 50-50 split. But as long as the game is 33% or more female players, and we have a female design lead, I think that would unlock males to have all male tables for some portion of their campaigns, not for every campaign. So you could say, hey, we're going to bro it up. We're going to have a dudes campaign because we have 33% female players or more, and we have a female design lead. The gender justice has been done. We can go forward as a guilt-free table, right? And then as soon as this campaign is done, we will invite females back in, right? And I think that is when we could do that, when we could have guilt-free all-male games. That's what I think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.